What did you learn from the Philadelphia Eagles? Classes in session. 866-979-3776. I like this tweet from Greg Rosenthal. Bump, the most consistent analytical precept in the Howie era, Howie Roseman being the GM of the Eagles, is that linemen on both sides are underpaid, underdrafted, and you can't spend enough resources on them. We will talk about the drafting, the free agent moves, the trades the Eagles have made, what the Seahawks can learn, but it feels like it starts with the trenches.
Yeah, trenches won that game. I know Jalen Hurts got the MVP award. I think he deserved it. But if you look at just a group of men that highlighted that game, that played the best, it's that defensive line. They didn't have any help. They didn't have a linebacker walking in the A-gap trying to confuse your center and your guard and bailing out or blitzing. It was just straight-up football. Like, let's go get it. You bigs up there, let's go eat. So I think that as a group, they probably played the best. Individual, I'm going to lean with the quarterback because he has to make the plays and throws and all that good stuff. But here's what I don't agree with. You said offensive linemen are underpaid and underdrafted.
Greg Rosenthal said that Howie.
This is why he's wrong. Because the league determines how much they get paid. The owners, the GMs determine how much they get paid. One GM isn't going to go off the cuff and say, you know what, I'm going to pay him $8 more millions because he's that good. No, he's going to look across the league and say, all right, what's everybody paying these guys?
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. So they hold tremendous value to your team, but they're not underpaid because the league sets the market.
Well, and the Eagles are one of the top payers when it comes to the offensive line, so I'd love for one of their offensive linemen to go, oh, Howie, maybe you should pay me more then.
Yeah,
if you think I'm underpaid, and let's see what Howie says. But I think that what this naturally does is allows us to juxtapose John Schneider's sentiments about the offensive line that he said on the John Schneider show. And if I were him, I'd hate hearing this cut over and over. And maybe this year he'll clarify with Wyman and Bob. But we have people mentioning this so often.
It's just the nature of the position. It takes a special breed to play that spot. But no, the guys get overdrafted at that position, and in my opinion, they get overpaid.
I have heard people mention that so many times. Meanwhile, this is Howie Roseman.
Yeah, I think that's always the goal. You know, O-line, D-line's been something long time here in Philadelphia, and obviously, you know, we had to win that way. So we came back 2 years ago. We couldn't get home. You know, we didn't have any sacks in that Super Bowl. And they beat us, and we came back, and they were able to get pressure, and our offensive line did a phenomenal job. Jalen did a phenomenal job, and we're world champs.
They obviously prioritize spending and drafting in the trenches. Bump, I want to initially, just out of instinct, kind of like, I don't know, be like, well, the Seahawks have tried. However, they haven't been successful. So there is part of you that wonders if there's an analysis issue, if there's a scouting thing, if there's something bigger than just bad luck.
I think the difference between Philly and the Seahawks is that they prioritize offensive linemen, defensive linemen. I don't think over the past decade plus that's been a priority. The priority has been, okay, let's get some edge rushers, which, depending on how you look at it, are defensive linemen. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure our receivers are good, and let's draft a bunch of running backs because we know that these guys get banged up. You haven't been in a position to where you can draft high and get yourself a quarterback, but it's about prioritizing. Just because you're not drafting an offensive tackle in the first round doesn't mean that can't be your priority. Like on the offseason, you have to be looking at all free agents and throwing your best deals out there and trying to get these guys to come here, which we don't know. They don't tell us what deals they're trying to make and what didn't go through, but it's never seemed like a priority out here. So hopefully with this year behind them, with evaluating, with Kubiak coming over here and adding his 2 cents with the new offensive line coach, you start prioritizing just the analysis of it too. Again, I don't know what their process is like when it comes to evaluating offensive linemen, but there's some things that we can make assumptions to, right? The evaluation process isn't the greatest, and it's probably not the first thing on their list if we're going off of what Schneider has said in the past. Now, a man can change. I know we play that clip and people bring it up often, and it's fine. You can because he did say that. But I also think that people change. Like, I wasn't the same dude I was a year ago. I've changed some things about myself. And I think maybe John Schneider, with the influence of all these other voices, might have changed the way he looks at that position, too.
I will say the John Schneider show returns soon. I believe, Matt Curtis, do you know offhand if it's this week for the John Schneider show?
I believe it does start this week.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see, how soon they dive into conversations about the offensive line. Let's get to some of the pieces. Drafting, the Eagles added in 2020 Jalen Hurts with a day 2 pick, Devonta Smith with a high first rounder, Landon Dickerson, Jalen Carter 9th overall in 2023. They also added his teammate Nolan Smith from that same Georgia class in the first round at 30. Quinion Mitchell adding to that secondary, Cooper DeJean adding to that secondary in 2024. I mean, that is a run of 4 seasons, beginning in 2020 when they didn't use like a high pick on Jalen, but in 2020 they were like 4 wins. So they were at one point low.
Yeah.
They were not in a great place. So over 4 years of drafting, they've added all of that, in addition to signing Saquon Barkley in free agency, trading for A.J. Brown and Darius Slay. These are major moves.
Yeah, they are major moves, and they hit. And their evaluation process for what they want to be offensively and defensively is on point. They clearly have a commitment to that offensive line. You mentioned we got Lane Johnson, you got Mailata over there as well. They have prioritized that offensive line and have found gems on that defense. Like Cooper DeJean is going to be here for a while. Mitchell's going to be here for a while. And then they sprinkle in some veterans. You bring back Garner Johnson. You got Slay over there as well. Graham got healthy and was able to play in this game. It's not just, okay, let's draft young talent and hope it works out. Yes, you have to draft young talent. You got to develop and hope they work out. But you also got to sprinkle in some veterans over there to get the job done. And they've done exactly that. It's been, if anyone needs a master class on how to build a football team, everyone should be looking at the Philadelphia Eagles at this point. A second-round quarterback just won a Super Bowl. You go and get Saquon Barkley. The Giants got to be sick right now. And you're sprinkling all this young talent who's going to be here in the near future. It's just impressive to watch them do what they do. And they did it. It was a team win, from their kicker to the O-line, D-line, quarterback, wideouts. Your 2 baller wideouts made a play. Your tight end made a couple of big plays. Saquon just kept you in the fight. It was like he's on the ropes just swinging, saying, look, we're just going to wait for our opening and we're going to knock you out. It was a team win and a well-executed plan by Kellen Moore. I wonder what he's going to look like in New Orleans.
In terms of lessons to be taken from Philly, mine is twofold. Number one, it's okay to go for obvious talent. Like, there are not many names on this list of talent that they added that were like super under the radar, diamond in the rough type moves, right? Jalen Carter was an obvious talent. Saquon Barkley was an obvious talent. They just had to make decisions onto whether or not to take them, whether or not to pay them. So that's the first one. The second is just please focus on the trenches.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 lessons for me.
And get it right. Like, you got to get it right. You can try. And we give them props for trying every year because they draft offensive linemen.
Sure.
But you got to get it right now.